U.S. Department of State, in relation to climate, related migration and foster youth leadership. Please, Ms. Marta. Yes, please. And also welcome with me, who insisted, despite that she has to move quickly because she has another meeting, she insisted to join us to welcome you all to IOM Pavilion as a start to this conversation and to inspire some of you with her amazing stories, our Deputy Director General of IOM, Ms. Oguchi Daniels. I'm also so happy that we have today with us IOM Goodwill Ambassador, Nicolas Marin, who will be actually part of the panel to inspire all of you how he became the best photographer in his age and all his journeys and adventure. And I think it will be extremely lesson learned and aspiration for all of us. Please, Nicolas. DDG Daniels has to move, but she insisted that if we have all of you here to start by saying a couple of words to encourage and inspire the conversation before we move forward to Ms. Marta and others. Please.
Good evening. Good evening? Yes, okay. Energy in the room. It's such a privilege for me to have this opportunity to speak with you all, to welcome you. This side event, where we're looking at the intersection of creativity, climate advocacy, and human mobility. Those are a lot of words, but for me, it's fundamentally about the energy that young people have brought to the climate agenda. Not just the energy, but the space that you have created for the really, really important things that you all have to say, but also enforcing. I'd like to believe I'm young at heart, but I have to accept that I'm old. Forcing all of us to really recognize what it is that's important to all of you and how the decisions we make are important for all of you. So obviously climate is impacting us in profound ways. We see, you can't turn on the news, you can't check a weather report without seeing what the impact of climate is. We see it, of course, in terms of destruction of infrastructure, but more importantly, what the impact is on lives. And for IOM, we recognize the importance of creativity in coming up with innovative solutions that work in the specific context, and solutions that are not just created, but are owned and delivered by those who are experiencing the impact the most. So today's event brings together some really, really remarkable individuals who embody this approach. Rania had already spoken about our Goodwill Ambassador using his platform and his photography to bring attention to what's happening to those at the front line of community change, at the front line of climate change. It's also an honor, privilege for me to also introduce, I have to get your full title, Acting Assistant Secretary Martha Youth, whose leadership at the U.S. Department of State underscores the importance of international collaboration in addressing climate-induced migration. But for me, it's a lot more than that. Martha is a colleague, is a friend, is an advocate, is a champion, one of the most pragmatic colleagues that I have had the honor of working with, who is really focused on how are we going to get to solutions. And then we're also honored that we have two of our youth delegates here. I haven't met them yet, but it's in my talking points that they're here. So I believe, yes, there they are, Shakoda Mirakova and Akash Ranison, and we're going to hear their stories, which demonstrate the really critical role youth leaders are going to play. And I'm also thanking Sam Huckstep for bringing, who's Sam? You're Sam? Okay, great. You're bringing an evidence-based perspective to today's discussion. So we've got everything we need in this room. We have young people, innovative stories. We've got strong advocates. We've got the evidence. We have got governments for this session. And ultimately, it's about how are we all coming together? How are the partnerships that we are building, not just delivering solutions, because I think there's quite a bit of evidence on what the solutions are, but how do we take it to scale such that it can have impact on what it is that we are seeing, and that we have outcomes that work for each and every person who is impacted by climate change in their own setting. And so, unfortunately, I have a meeting with my boss, and if you've ever met my boss, you will know that they've met my boss. She's a force of nature, so I'm not able to stay with you, but I leave you in the very good hands of Rania as a moderator, and assure you of IOM's full commitment to not just all that you're going to talk about, but the way forward. Because at the end of the day, as much as I love coming to COP, as much as I love all of the interaction, if we're not having impact on the ground and positively improving lives of people, then it's not worth it. So let's make it worth it. I thank you.
Thank you, DDG. So we started by listening to DDG Oguchi Daniels, but also it shows that IOM put the young people at the heart of everything we do. Not only climate change and human mobility, but in every project, in every program, in every framework, in every discussion, young people are part of the discussion, of the elaboration of the programs, of the frameworks. And I see a number of people who was with us in Kampala framework declaration, where they were putting their inputs, presenting their communities, presenting their passion. They are the present, they are the future, and that's why we give this a specific importance, not only as IOM, but also the partners and the friends of IOM who support IOM mandate and support the climate change and human mobility cause, and also support lots of the youth around the globe. I would like to ask Ms. Marta Youth to inspire her and give some key notes, speech, and remarks to open the conversation.
IOM is so committed to youth that the government representative they brought had the last name Youth, right? Is that? Yeah. It was actually a good name to have when I was young. As I get older, it gets more and more ironic. So, but anyway. So it's so great to be here with you all today. And, you know, Ugochi said it best, but young people like you are essential to defining the road ahead. And we'd be idiots if we didn't really bring in young people into the discussion, because you bring the energy, you bring the innovation, you bring frequently the impatience with the way things are being done. So it's very helpful to engage with the youth, especially the well-informed youth with your lived experiences already, to really help us find the way forward and find new solutions. One of the things I did want to do today is just to highlight a few of the things that the U.S. government and our partner nations have done just in combating the climate crisis over the past 4 years. I know there's lots of work still to be done, but I don't want to just forget kind of what we have achieved. We rejoined the Paris Agreement ourselves in 2021. We ratified the Kigali Amendment in 2022. We've convened a lot of summits on climate change. And domestically, we passed the largest piece of domestic legislation on climate adaptation and mitigation in U.S. history. We've also become a world leader in innovative debt for nature swaps. These have helped countries restructure over $2 billion in debt and unlock millions of dollars in new financing for nature and climate. We have a plan to conserve global forests, and we're also the inaugural co-chairs of the Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership. And we work through the LEAF Coalition, which is a public-private partnership that has committed over $1 billion to support the conservation of tropical forests through high-integrity carbon markets. Finally, we're on track to meet President Biden's 2021 pledge to work with Congress to quadruple U.S. international public climate finance by the end of 2024 to over $11 billion per year, including $3 billion in adaptation finance for PREPARE, which is the President's emergency plan for adaptation and resilience. All this goes towards helping more than 500 million people in developing countries adapt to and manage the impacts of climate change by 2030. As part of this global effort to meet the moment of climate crisis, we've undertaken a whole-of-government approach to prioritize. And I will say this, many of you perhaps have not worked in government, but you know about stovepipes and about people only focusing on certain things. And so what we've really done that has been in a government almost revolutionary is we've brought together 20 different government agencies that in their own ways were working on climate change in their own little area. And instead, we've brought them together to work together. And the fact that our bureau is here, I'm leading the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. So we have another bureau that's Oceans and Environment and Science. They're the people in the room negotiating the agreement. But that we're here today looking at specifically at the intersection of climate change and migration is because of this effort to not stovepipe the government and to have us all work together on solutions. And we're really looking towards durable solutions towards displacement. What our focus is refugee resettlement and promoting safe, orderly, and humane migration. And that's where our connection to IOM comes. We are one of IOM's biggest funders. But what we do is our assistance helps international organizations and non-governmental organizations expand alternatives to irregular migration, protect human rights, identify and protect refugees, counter human smuggling and trafficking. We also support innovative solutions, just like IOM's new Climate and Mobility Innovation Labs. The era of severe and protracted crises requires us to maximize diplomacy's capacity to support the most vulnerable refugee and host communities. This requires coordinating across all of the range of voices. So it's not just within the government, but it's also civil society, multilateral development banks, the private sector, NGOs, UN agencies, and then most importantly and most crucially, the people affected by crises. We invest in often less heard voices, women-led organizations, youth-led organizations. We want our assistance to be more rooted in community-identified needs, and we want it to be responsive to diverse stakeholders. So with that, I'm going to turn back to you because what I'm really interested in doing, while I'm glad to talk to you and tell you about some of our achievements and some of the things that we're looking at, I'm really interested in hearing about your engagement on the issues, your ideas, your suggestions for best practices and solutions. And so with that, Rania, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will continue sitting because it's time for us to listen to young people, youth, while we are all still young, all of us. But thank you so much for a very inspiring and interesting keynote. And thank you for taking care of not only young people, but displaced and migrant communities affected by climate change, affected by humanitarian crisis everywhere, in every region, in every country. Very much appreciated. The partnership we had on Climate Mobility Innovation Lab in encouraging community of practices for young people and communities, but also innovative, sustainable solution. You are the first donors, countries, and partners to be part of that, and we're very proud of this partnership, but also for encouraging new initiatives. And when we talk about youth and young people, it's all about new initiatives, and it's all about new ideas. And talking about initiatives and ideas and inspiring things, I would love to have Nicolas Marine is IOM Goodwill Ambassador, and he is actually not only passionate about climate, and it's not only a passion by advocating, but also by doing. So it will be great, Nicolas, to inspire us and tell us a bit of your story. I think Miss Marta here and all of us would like to hear you and to be inspired by your success story.
So, yes, hello everyone, how are you? With some of you, I get the opportunity yesterday to talk a little bit in another panel, but for the people who don't was here, I am Nicolas, I am 25 years old, I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and as a profession, I am a National Geographic Explorer, underwater photographer, journalist, and activism. And my work is not just documenting, of course, I really like to document the beauties and to document the whales, and you will see now in a few moments some images that I will talk of whales, of sharks all around the world, of migration of hammerhead shark in Galapagos, or migration of gray whales from Alaska to the waters of Gulf of California, the effects of the climate change in the North Pole, a lot of expedition we will talk about, but also I document the problems that the world have, right? And also I give some voice they don't have, like maybe that the power of communication, and maybe I have a little bit of power in that communication, but they have like the really power in the story. So I think we make a good team always. So yes, visual always tell the story better. So we will now see some videos about my expedition and about my work, and you will understand better. And after, of course, we will talk about.
Thank you.
In a world full of natural wonders, I have always felt a deep connection with the enchanting world beneath the waves. My name is Nicolas Marine, and I am a National Geographic explorer. As an underwater photographer, I have been captivated by the mysteries hiding beneath the ocean. At the age of 19, I had the opportunity to document the second largest coral reef in the world, and had my first encounter with a big shark. I have initiated significant conservation efforts, including organizing beach cleanups worldwide, leading environmental mobilizations, giving talks and conferences, documented illegal fishing in Senegal, conducting interviews with local fishermen, and flying over the industries while searching for radar and GPS. Weeks after, my photograph had been recognized among the top 25 underwater photographs in the world. And the news keeps coming. In 2022, National Geographic selected me as one of the 25 explorers of the world. And I started my project, Pacific Migrants, to showcase the importance of the species in the ecosystem in the Pacific Ocean. I started in the Galapagos Island, documenting the migratory route of hammerhead sharks and the population of oceanic manta rays, the Mobula virostris. A month later, I continued with my studies in Baja California Sur, documenting and recording behaviors of marine mammals, such as orcas, large groups of dolphins, humpback and gray whales, and sperm whales. While working on my project, I was chosen as one of the 100 young leaders of the world attending Our Ocean, one of the most important conferences for ocean conservation in Panama and in the entire world. There, I had one of the most incredible encounters of my life, meeting my greatest inspiration, the Dr. Sylvia Earle. I spent the following days documenting the Coiba National Park, and just a couple weeks, I returned from an expedition in the Arctic, being selected as one of the 11 young leaders from all the world selected by a United Nations program to understand the effects of the climate change in these regions. I am incredibly grateful for everything that has been happening to me and for everything that is yet to come. Thank you for all the support.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Nicola.
Yes, I made this video these days just to showcase a little bit about of my work, and so was especially made it from here, from this panel. So I think maybe if you have some question, of course we can talk about it. But yes, my work is basically like travel, and of course document also the beauties and the problematics. So it will be nice after if you have like some questions about that. That will be like really interesting.
Thank you so much. And what's better to present and speak about your work except showing us your work? So thank you so much for that. Thank you, and I'm sure there will come to the questions after. We are going to have now another climate displaced and filmmaker inspiring person to come and to tell us about their story. Shahazoda, if I'm pronouncing the name right. Maybe you can stand here on the podium actually and tell us about your journey. What impact do you hope your work will have and bring to your communities?
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so much to IOM for giving me an opportunity to become a part of the young delegate cohort. This is the first time when Central Asian region is largely being represented at COP, and maybe some of you have visited the national pavilions of our regions. But other than that, yeah, when it comes to my work as the filmmaker, I would like to say that I started my journey when I was 19 as the filmmaker, but at 15 as an activist. And for me, it has been quite a long journey of understanding what kind of mediums I should use, especially in the countries when the freedom of speech is being oppressed in many ways. And we have to advocate and look for the ways that could bring those stories to life, that could bring those stories to the policymakers' room so they could understand that the change is needed. And the documentary that I was working when I was already 21 was about the Central Asian Roma people. And this is how we present them in the international conferences, but in our local communities, we name them as Luli, or in the Iranian perspective as Mughal people. And those people that are not being largely covered in the media, not being largely covered in the NGO agenda. And for me, as an activist, as the journalist, was important to bring their stories to life, because when it comes to the Central Asian community, they've been discriminating those people for hundreds of years, even though they're already considered as the native people of our lands, they're already considered as the native people of our region, but they're still being labeled and perceived as the beggars, they're being perceived as the people who are strangers to our country. And for me, it was important to go particularly to their villages, understand what their passions are, what their challenges are. And the interesting thing that I realized when I was recording the story was that they were the first community in Central Asia that started the eco-activism. They were the first people in Central Asia that started picking up the trash in the canals, in the rivers. They were the first people who started bringing the traditional knowledge of sustainability to their communities. So in my documentary, I'm bringing those stories to Central Asian people so they could recognize their potential, so they could recognize what kind of power they have, and that we have to bring them to the table with the policymakers. We have to put them in the agenda in political, cultural, economical perspective. And when it comes to the portion of hope with this documentary that I produced, I want to fight injustice in Central Asian communities that we have towards those people, and I want to change people's attitudes on how we treat them, on how we approach them, and also, as I said before, I want them to be recognized as native people, because those people have been changing the narratives for so many years. They've been bringing those sustainable solutions, and we have to make it work, and we have to make it the part of the global discussions. And the last point would be about the migration. So when it comes to the ethnic minorities, they're considered to be the ethnic minorities. They're affected by the climate migration, by the climate problems more. And when we're not bringing all voices to the round table, we're basically leaving out many people behind. And I think the documentaries are the powerful tools to bring those stories to life, especially in the communities when you cannot protest, in the communities where you cannot just openly come to the politicians and say like give the rights to the Central Asian Roma people, you know. And those are the mediums by which politicians can see on the social media and pay attention to such critical issues. Thank you.
I always say we are safe when we have young people like this, who are already in very young age and still very inspiring and already achieved a lot. And this bring me to another interesting experience. I think I didn't attend any event unless everyone talked about evidence and data and research. So I'm looking now to Sam, and I would like to welcome him to the podium, please. From a research perspective, Sam, it will be great if you can tell us how evidence-based insights complement creative advocacy in tackling climate change and human mobility challenges.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I'm going to answer that question focusing in particular on some research that we've recently done, myself and a colleague, Jonathan Bainan, a climate finance expert, and I, at the Center for Global Development. And while my fellow panelists have been talking, I think, hugely impressively about creativity, I'm going to be talking about a creative, technocratic solution, which is a slightly different take on this panel, but I hope will be interesting. So we know, I think, all of us here, how beneficial migration can be for adaptation to climate change. And we know that migration is already supporting numerous households in the face of shocks in numerous contexts. And we know that remittances can be useful for responses to climate change in numerous ways. It can help households to rebuild after floods, to relocate, to diversify. The list goes on. And we know also that migration is an investment. It's an investment which is made by households which assess what needs they have and what risks they are willing to take, and which conclude that remittances can be useful in meeting their needs. And especially for households that have very low resources or where their livelihoods are particularly exposed to climate shocks, migration can be an extremely good investment. But we also know that many households don't have access to it. They are involuntarily immobile because of reductions to their resources. And this is crucial. This gap in resources is crucial. we know there's a huge adaptation funding gap. The UNEP estimates that by 2030, the gap between what is provided and what is needed will be somewhere between $160 billion and $340 billion, which is enormous. And we know that in 2022, the year for which we have the most recent climate finance figures, only $32.4 billion was provided in adaptation finance. And UNEP suggests that we will have to seek alternative or innovative funding sources to address this shortfall. And we know that there are two sources of this shortfall. Firstly, the global north countries, as we've been hearing in the negotiations over the past days, either cannot or will not provide the funding to make up that gap. And we know, secondly, that part of the reason for that gap is that mobilized private climate finance, for which great things were expected, hasn't materialized in the adaptation space. Last year, or in 2022, for every dollar provided in public adaptation finance, only 12 cents were mobilized in private climate finance. And this figure might even be too optimistic. So the question that we went into is, to what extent can migration help? And how can these problems be unified to try to find a creative solution? And in the remittances and adaptation space, the idea of using remittances for climate adaptation is very often discussed. But normally it's with the idea of channeling money from the existing diaspora towards projects in the country of origin that can help communities to adapt. And this is a really good idea and it needs a lot more research. But there's a flip side that we think rarely gets discussed. And that is the fact that countries of destination very rarely actually consider how to maximize their migration policy for development or adaptation impacts. And this is a hugely powerful tool that's been left unused. The World Bank calculates migration is the greatest development tool that we have available. There's nothing else that can allow a household to multiply its income in a short space of time. Cash transfers are fantastic, but migration does better. Migration, for example, from Haiti in 2011, following the 2010 earthquake that left so many households hugely vulnerable, allowed, this is migration to the US for seasonal agricultural work, could increase incomes by 1,500%. It could double households' income in only a few weeks. And this approach, which involved targeting the US's H-2A visas towards Haitian migrant households, or towards Haitian households that would like to send migrants, only happened thanks to lobbying work that was done by my colleague Michael Clemens. But it had an enormous impact. And we know that if this is replicated, it can also help households elsewhere. So we have a proposal, and that's what I've been invited here to talk about today. And the proposal is that if countries of destination can deliberately and carefully and transparently target climate vulnerable communities for access to labor migration in the country of destination, the remittances, some or even all of them that are sent back, can be considered mobilized private climate finance. And we have a large paper, we assess all the different pros and cons, and we work out that this proposal satisfies UNFCCC guidance and can be hugely beneficial for the households in question. And the idea of targeting migration opportunities, not necessarily creating new routes, but making sure that those that would most benefit have access to them, it's not wholly new, but it's almost entirely neglected. It is not used nearly as much as it should be. And where it has been used, it has worked very well. And we hope that this proposal might incentivize countries of destination to use it more. We've tried to work out how much private adaptation finance could be mobilized, and we use historical data from a pilot program that Australia ran in the Pacific, and we find that if it had been run with climate factors in mind, you could mobilize $1.83, $1.83 of adaptation finance per dollar of public finance invested in the program, which is more than 15 times the current average mobilization rate in the adaptation space. So we think hundreds of millions of dollars could potentially be mobilized by an individual migration program, and that these hundreds of millions would go directly to the most vulnerable communities for them to use as they wish, and that this would be delivered through unconditional cash rather than through loans. And often these loans are non-concessional, which makes obviously adaptation very challenging. So they're much better, they have the potential to be much, much better than the conventional approaches. The key question, which I hope you're all wondering, is whether this proposal could dislodge existing commitments and whether remittances could be used to reduce the obligations that should be placed on global north countries. And in our assessment, this really cannot happen under UNFCCC guidance. Firstly, the financing gap is simply much too large, and this proposal, while it can bring very meaningful amounts to communities and to individual households, will not eclipse the amount of money, it will not shove out money that global north countries will need to be providing, especially under the NCQG. And secondly, mobilized private climate finance is not substitutable with public finance, so this would all be additional. This is a way of making scarce, excessively scarce, public climate finance go further, go much, much further. So this would only increase the total impact. And we think also, finally, that the proposal has a number of other quite positive benefits. If the country of destination does care about mobilizing private climate finance, and they all say that they do, whether they do is another question, but we must take them at their word, I think. This could incentivize the countries of destination to prioritize getting better outcomes for migrants. If they care about increasing remittances, they should also care about reducing remittance sending costs, about cutting taxes for migrants in the country of destination, about reducing exploitation, cutting out wage theft, and so on and so forth. So we know that migration can be hugely beneficial, and we're hoping that this proposal could incentivize global north countries to use migration more to support climate adaptation and to target better those who would most benefit from access to this transformative tool. I'll be very glad to share the paper or to answer what I hope will be many questions. Thanks so much.
So much, Sam. And definitely we want to have the paper, and definitely we are totally, as IOM, not only convinced, but we are actually reaffirming our commitment that migration is a solution. So thank you so much for bringing that. We would love to read your paper, and we would love to discuss your proposition as well. But from research and data and confirmation on the importance of migration and solution for people to stay, solution for people on the move, and solution for people to move with dignity within their rights. Thank you so much for that. But I cannot leave after this without having another inspiring writer, not only youth delegate of IOM, but he is also a writer who comes with his book. And he is actually, the book has been talking about climate advocacy. He's been very inspiring. He signed the book for our DG, Amy Pop, and our Deputy Chief of Staff. This is how inspiring he is and how inspiring is his book. So please, Akash, please come to the podium, have the floor, and tell us about your experience and your book.
Hi everyone, are you still awake? Okay, I'll try to take you to sleep. My name is Akash Ranison. I am from India. And I've been working in the space of climate change for the last 10 years. When I say I've been working in the space of climate change, what do I mean? So I do all the possible things which makes me happy, so that I don't feel that I'm really working. Most of the time I'm enjoying what I really love doing. I love writing, so I write books. One of the book which I can share here with you is this, I'm a Climate Optimist, which is India's first carbon neutral book, which is a guide to people across the nation that how they can live a sustainable life. Apart from that, I make art installations and I make documentaries as well. And now I'm trying to make music. But all of these things, whatever I do, is connected to climate change back again. Whatever the books I write tries to communicate to people that how they can live a sustainable life, how we can help them find things easily, because majority of the time when it comes to talking about climate change, either we talk in a very basic sense that don't use single-use plastic, or we talk in a IPCC language, but there's a huge gap in between, which the people out there need to know, and that's how they can really take a step. So the book talks on those lines. When it comes to art installation, I try to make art which communicates the pain the nature is going through, so that we can communicate it to people and they can take inspiration from those art installations to drive positive climate action. The documentaries does this similar part that okay, how I travel across the nation or different countries, I pick up stories and I try to communicate it to normal people in a very visual, in a happy sense. They can watch it because I don't want to make people cry when I talk about climate change, because for me it's about the energy I have while I'm talking to you, right? Or while I'm doing some work. I can do the same work with a positive energy or with a negative energy. I'll do the work and I'll get the result. But what was the energy I was investing into something while I was doing that thing? And I really believe in that. And also that when I'm trying to save the world or trying to save the nature, not really that I'm trying to really save the world, I'm putting my effort, whatever 2 cent I can do. Why can't I be happy when I'm doing a good work? Why do I have to be so aggressive and so sort of like angry? I know that that drive passion, but for me it's like happiness drive me further more far rather than my anger. Music, when we talk about music, what I'm doing here is that we have been collecting sound of endangered species, whether it's a plant, whether it's a bird, whether it's a mammal or insect. We are collecting those sounds and we are producing good electronic music, right? Because I want people to listen to that music and feel happy about it, so that then they don't want to lose it. Because if something is making you sad, you're not really trying to save it. But if something makes you happy, you want to save it, that how is it possible that I can save this thing? That's my work, and parallel to that I run another organization by the name Greener Earth Foundation, which focuses on agriculture and which focuses towards, advocating for climate change. And a majority of my time I spend in the Ladakhi region, which is the top northern region in India, where I've been there. Like I go there every year and I live over there. But Ladakh is a very cold region where you have Himalayas, and that's where like I learned for the first time about climate migration, because the region depends on the snowfall. Right, and if you do not have snow, that means like you're already on the Himalayas. It's difficult to find groundwater over there. And the snow is one of the reason, like one of the thing which helps you providing the water you need for the daily life and for the farming. And we obviously, with the climate change, we are losing the snowfall, the amount of snowfall we would get. And so by the time we would now reach to the half of the summer, we are running out of the water. So we started coming up with creative solutions to find that, solve that problem. We started making artificial glaciers. How do we do that? So we would build artificial bridges which are not there, but to stop water over there in the winter, so we can create more artificial glaciers over there in a very low cost, so that even villagers who have no idea how the tech works, what is climate change, they do not have high budgets or technology, they still can go out, use the stones which are anyway available over there on the mountains, use them to create these bridges which stops the water and create more artificial glaciers, so that the water stays by the end of the summer. And obviously, we are trying our best solution, but again, there are so many young people who do not find the possibility of life over there in Ladakhi region, and they migrate to, let's say, different cities, metro cities in India, so that they can find some work over there. And many of the one who comes to city, they feel that, okay, again, the city is not able to fulfill their need, because when you migrate from your homeland to a metro city, you don't know what you can work over there, you don't know the language, and also that you're not really on the pace the way this city runs. In some way, you start feeling disrespected, because when you're back at home, you might be making lesser money, but you live a very respectable life. You might be not eating a very fancy dinner, but whatever you're eating healthy and you're eating with family. But this climate-caused migration sort of takes away the possibility of you being in that comfort with your family, and also that your family is now without you. And when you come to these cities, they again not really able to make that money which they can really fulfill their own need, because when you come to city, yes, you can make more money, but the city takes more money to survive over there. And eventually the next solution is, I'm going to go to another country with the hope that I will make more money there, and then I'll be able to, which never happens. So in a way, if we really help these people who live in these small regions like Ladakh is one option when we are talking about snow. But if you ship to other part of the country, there are flood. If you ship to another country, you will find landslide. If you ship to another part of the country, you will find drought. All these climate-caused problems sort of like creates very difficult situation to people who live over there. And as we already know, it's easy for young people. Young people are the first one who decide that, okay, I don't want to live in the village or this place and I want to move out. And we are literally sort of like taking away the opportunity of living a respectable life from these people. And that's what the work I do over there, by coming up with these creative solutions for these villages, or whether we talk about the Himalayan region where we do the artificial glacier work, or whether we talk about regions like Gujarat or Rajasthan where we face droughts over there. So then again we try to use data over there to help farmers, that how they can use data of analytics, that what amount of rain are we expecting in this season. Accordingly, they can see that how much water do they have for the whole village to survive on, and how much water is remaining for the amount of land we have to do the farming. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akash. Thank you so much. I think that you talked on solutions for people to stay, and this is what we're also behind, how to support communities with innovative solutions, scalable solution to allow them to stay within their communities. But also thank you for bringing the optimism and positivity, and this is how we survive. We have to continue being climate optimists and climate positive, and this is how can we really overcome any problems and come with innovative solutions that can support different communities, support young people, support women, support girls, elderly people, where we can really influence other people's lives. It's actually, the time flies when we have youth speaking into any panel. Unfortunately, there is no even time to open a Q&A, but I would like to thank you all, and I would like to thank our guest speaker, Ms. Marta Youth, who she's still also youth. Thank you for every inspiring input that you gave, and thank you for listening. I'm sure she was writing actually all these ideas, and I'm sure that she will translate these ideas into bigger aspirational programs. Thank you also for our Goodwill ambassador for bringing, again, showing us your work, not only speaking about, and for all the panelists, thank you for this discussion, for sharing the learning, for sharing the feelings, for sharing the positivity and the optimism. Thank you so much.